Hello, everyone. If you could take your seats. Thank you, Don. That was classy. It's classy. Hello, my name is Bruce Sellery, and I'm the president of the Canadian Club of Toronto and your host today. Thank you for joining us in the room and through live stream as well. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the generous support of today's event sponsor. Davies is our sponsor today. Thank you very much for your contribution. Round of applause for Davies. Now, as our club name suggests, we address issues that are important to Canadians, and we acknowledge the regional differences that make Canada both distinct and culturally rich, and take pride in putting dynamic leaders in front of you who encourage you to think critically and thoughtfully about this great country of ours. Now, as a kid growing up, I had no picture for the Canadian North. I watched all the movies you did, and where I wanted to go was Petra, Jordan, because that's the scene that was in the Indiana Jones movie, right? And the Swiss Alps, which was the James Bond movies. These are the kinds of images that we're raised with and the aspirations that we have in terms of world travel. I never thought about Inuvik or a Igloolik or a Iqaluit or Tuktoyaktuk. I had no idea. And then I got a chance to visit. And I have been lucky enough to visit 4 times, which is a miracle given that a flight to the North costs about, Peter, like $4 million. Return, it's about $4 million or something. It totally blew me away. So for those of you who haven't been to the North, it is not a different part of our country. It is like being on another planet. It is stark, it is beautiful, it is friendly, and it is a cultural goldmine. And that is why I am so excited to be here today. So what does the future hold for the Arctic? Canadians have pressed the reset button in this most recent federal election. A new parliamentary session is about to begin. But what will the priorities be? Some noted that there was very little discussion about Northern Canada during the election campaign. So what needs to happen to make sure a robust Arctic strategy is on the agenda? Sean Boyd has some ideas. As CEO and vice chairman of the largest private sector employer in Nunavut, he sees great potential. Agnico Eagle operates 2 mines and has over 2,000 employees, of which nearly 700 are Inuit. Sean was appointed the company's chief executive officer in 1998 after having served as the chief financial officer for 8 years. He was also the company's comptroller for 5 years before that. Since becoming CEO, Sean has grown Agnico Eagle from a small, single gold producer into a multi-mine international gold company. His leadership has been recognized internationally. He was the Northern Miners Mining Person of the Year in 2007 and 2017, and on 3 occasions he's appeared on the Harvard Business Review's list of best-performing CEOs in the world. Sean Boyd also finds time to provide leadership to various causes. He serves on the board of directors of the Princess Margaret Cancer Foundation. There he chairs the Granting Impact and Stewardship Committee. And he also has served on the World Gold Council Board and on the St. Francis Xavier University Board of Governors. Sean, I am pleased to pass the Canadian Club of Toronto podium over to you. A round of applause and welcome. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Bruce, for that kind introduction, and thank you to the Canadian Club of Toronto, and thank you all for joining me today and many of our colleagues at Agnico Eagle for a much-needed dialogue on the future of the North, on Canada's future, and the future of Nunavummiut. What we'll try to do today is bring you our perspective based on our experience in Nunavut, in working with the people of Nunavut, but also in building a business in Nunavut over the last 12 years. I was asked a question outside by a mining analyst, and he said, as I was working my way upstairs to the reception, he said, "Why are you doing this today?" And it's somewhat against Agnico's style or historic style. And that's a great question. When we look at the Canadian mining industry, we look at one where we've seen a lot of our big companies come and go. There's not many companies left of the size of Agnico Eagle, and there is some question as to where the country's headed with respect to resource development. So Agnico felt it's time that we use our experience over 6 decades and tell a positive story about mining, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. But standing here today is a little bit of a homecoming for me. I began my career in mining, in the mining industry, in this building about 6 floors up, and that was 35 years ago. As Bruce said, I joined Agnico as an accountant. We had a silver division in Cobalt, Ontario. We had 1 operating gold mine in Joutel, Quebec. And as Bruce mentioned today, we produce gold in a number of countries around the world. We operate not only in Canada and Mexico, but north of the Arctic Circle in Finland. So we've got tremendous experience in not just the Canadian Arctic, but also in the Arctic and Scandinavia. We're the largest producer of gold in Canada. So we've got tremendous experience in the gold mining business. And our success over 60 years is really, we think, a result. We've just had a clear vision. The vision was really to keep the story simple, to run a high-quality, successful business that not just focuses on return to shareholders, and we've done that very well, but we say so many times that we're not going to be able to consider ourselves a success if we haven't created a business where our employees want to work, or we haven't made meaningful contributions to the communities we operate in or the countries we operated in. So I'm proud to say that we've earned a reputation within the industry as a partner of choice, of being a reliable partner, of operating, as Peter mentioned, with respect for others, which is extremely important when we're going into new areas with Indigenous people, but mostly for building trust. We've earned a reputation for building that trust. One of our most meaningful partnerships is with the people of Nunavut and the government of Nunavut. We currently operate the Meliadine and Amaruq mines, and we have our Meadowbank processing facility. All of those are in the Kivalliq region of Nunavut. I would like to welcome guests we have here today from Nunavut. We've met Peter. Thank you, Peter, for the blessing. Peter's an elder. He's one of our business partners from Baker Lake. We're joined here with Peter, his wife, Lena, and his daughter, Maureen. Thank you for making the trip from Baker Lake to join us here today. We also have with us today David Kakutinik. He's the president and CEO of Saku Investments Corporation from Rankin Inlet, a community that's very close to our mine at Meliadine, and Bruno Pereira, the CEO of Killick Energy Corporation from Iqaluit in Nunavut. I believe that the guests here from Nunavut will say that Agnico is a good partner, a responsible partner in developing the rich potential and promise of Nunavut and the mineral resources that exist there. But we know at Agnico we can be a better partner. We've got a lot to learn. We've been there for 12 years exploring and mining. We're essentially visitors to the land. We have a lot more to learn, as we've said, about the northern culture, about the priorities in the community, and we have a lot to learn from the elders and the community leaders in Nunavut. But although we don't always agree, I think what we do agree on, both the leadership and the people of Nunavut, is that Canada's north and its people will play a really important and meaningful role in the future of our country. And that's what we want to talk about here today. And I think this is appropriate because tomorrow, the newly elected federal government will swear in its cabinet. They will renew their relationship with the Indigenous people. So it's the right time, we feel, for Nunavummiut to determine and govern their own future, a future that helps to unlock the potential of not only the rich resources, but the people of Nunavut. And as the Arctic region grows in strategic importance, not only for Canadians, but for many of our neighbors, it's really vital and important that we come together as a country to develop a strategy, a comprehensive strategy, to take advantage of the opportunity that we see in Nunavut. Canada's Arctic, those of us who spend time there, those of us who live there, understand that the Arctic is under pressure. And we need to work together to defend it, to help the people of the North strengthen their sovereignty, to help them build an economy and an economic future that they want, and to do it in a way that protects the environment. So we believe we can do all of that in partnership, not only with the people of Nunavut, not only with businesses that operate there, but we really need a partner in the federal government. Nunavut, like most of the rest of Canada, has an ambition to build a strong, diversified economy, an economy that isn't wholly reliant on resources to be successful. But the government of Nunavut also understands that there's significant contribution from mining. They understand that the revenues that we generate for their government are important. They understand that mining creates businesses in Nunavut. They understand that the mining industry trains people and provides opportunity. So they also understand that although they don't want to be wholly dependent on mining, mining and proper resource development forms the foundation of a future economy that can benefit all of the people of Nunavut, but also benefit all of Canada. To understand more about Nunavut and to understand more about Nunavummiut and their aspirations, I think it's important to look at some of the choices that they've already made for themselves. And as a mining company, we're not here saying that this is what the people of Nunavut need to do. They've already made some choices, and those choices that they've made are choices that are designed to build a prosperous future for themselves, one that's filled with opportunities and not handouts. And there's a lot of information that's not well known about Nunavut and about these choices that the people of Nunavut have made in the last 20 years. 20 years ago, when Nunavut was carved out of the Northwest Territories, the Inuit used geological consultants to select which part of the land they wanted to take back and own a direct interest in. So they selected those based on geological potential, based on resource potential. As a result, under the Nunavut Land Claim Agreement, the people of Nunavut are one of the largest landowners in the world. They hold, as we said, 18% of the landmass of Nunavut, covering nearly 2.1 million square kilometers. So that area is 3.5 times the size of France. And in that area, 3.5 times the size of France, there's 36,000 roughly citizens spread out over a landmass that's actually about the size of Mexico. So when you think about that, it's one of the lowest population densities regions on the planet. And Nunavut's Canada's only geopolitical region that is not connected to the rest of North America by highway. So there's a sense of not being connected to the rest of the country. There's a sense of isolation because of that. Its land, its islands, its maritime borders touch the Northwest Territories, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Newfoundland, Labrador, Ontario, Quebec, and Greenland. It's no surprise that another priority of the territorial government is to connect Nunavummiut with each other and to the rest of Canada through strategic investment in infrastructure, such as roads, ports, telecommunications, and transportation. Although there's tremendous opportunity in Nunavut, there are serious social and economic challenges that must be urgently addressed. These challenges are unique to the territory and matter the most to Nunavummiut. They are the perennial shortage of housing, poverty, the cost of store-bought food, the cost of airfares, as Bruce mentioned, and some of those airfares are essential to get medical attention, having to fly to Winnipeg or Ottawa for that. The prevalence of diseases like tuberculosis, and living every day with the reality of suicide. So that's the reality, unfortunately, but there's also an opportunity. There's an opportunity to create opportunity for the people of Nunavut to build a prosperous future. So how does Agnico Eagle fit in? How does resource development fit in, and how do we contribute to a brighter and more hopeful future? Here are some of the things we have built and accomplished together with our Inuit partners over the last 12 years. In the last 2.5 years alone, Agnico has invested $1.2 billion US in the construction capital to build 2 new mines, Meliadine and Amaruq. We are now the biggest miner and largest private sector employer in Nunavut. We directly and indirectly employ the equivalent of 2,400 full-time positions. And as Bruce mentioned, approximately 700 people of Inuit descent work for us. Our annual Nunavut payroll is $90 million, with $18 million of that paid to Inuit employees. So essentially what we're doing, we're helping to build a middle class, helping that middle class to grow. And by 2020, our business in Nunavut will be 25% of the GDP of Nunavut. So that's the dramatic positive impact that you can have when you build a long-term sustainable business, but it requires significant investment. We're the largest road builder and owner in Nunavut. We've built over 200 kilometers of road. It cost us over $200 million. Since 2007, we have invested over $7 billion in Nunavut, including the acquisition of Cumberland Resources and Comaplex Minerals. In 2018, we spent over $550 million with 40 Inuit businesses, representing 56% of the amount we spent in that region. These businesses provide transportation, environmental, aviation, construction, and services to our mines in Nunavut. We have 3 Inuit impact and benefit agreements with the Kivalliq Inuit Association and Nunavut Tungavik Inc. Since 2007, our royalties and fees to both organizations have totaled more than $100 million. And we expect to pay over $450 million in royalties and fees to Inuit organizations over the next 15 years. We will do a commercial on gold. We expect gold prices to go higher, which means that $450 million could be significantly higher based on a higher gold price. So as a Canadian company that's run by Canadians, we're highly sensitive to the past treatment of the Indigenous people of Canada and the need for reconciliation. We support Nunavummiut. We support their aspirations to build a better future for themselves and their children. There's a lot at stake, but no one person, no one organization, no one company, no matter how well-intentioned, can do this alone. We need to work together to make that happen. So all northern stakeholders must come together to collaboratively develop an Arctic strategy that creates a singular vision for the social and economic development of Canada's north. But we feel that dialogue and that collaboration must start in the local communities. And that's where we've seen a lot of input, a lot of strength, a lot of good ideas. And that's where we get a lot of our feel for how we can help and how we can engage with the people of Nunavut. And without that vision, without that strategy, not much is going to get done. We're just going to run into too many obstacles. We're going to go in too many directions. We're going to squander resources. We're going to squander profits. We're going to compromise friendships. We can't emphasize enough how we need to work together, particularly at the government level, to provide that critical investment to make things happen. There's 3 things that we believe an Arctic strategy must address. As we've said, Nunavut is a welcoming place. Agnico Eagle would not be in this room. I would not be here if in 2007, when a lot of us that are here went up to Baker Lake for the first time, including our chairman, Jim Nasso, we came away heartened by the warm welcome that we received from the people of Baker Lake. And we decided right there, boy, this is a place we can do business. It's difficult, as you know, in the mining industry to find these unique places in the world where you actually have a local population that is supportive of mining, but also a place with tremendous mineral potential. So it was that combination that we saw, and we felt this is a place where we can really create a lot of value and, more importantly, as Jim likes to say at the board level, do a lot of good. But although it's a welcoming place, it's an expensive place to do business. There's a lot of risk in doing business in Nunavut. There's a lot of capital required, and that risk is prevalent because there's a lack of critical infrastructure, whether it's transportation, whether it's telecommunication, or whether it's energy infrastructure. So any Arctic strategy must focus on unlocking those critical infrastructure barriers and encourage investment in roads, electricity, broadband, airport, and port facilities. And as we said, we like to play a part in that, but we certainly need help at the government level. The Mining Association of Canada, when it looks at Canada's Arctic, they've determined that the Arctic is the most expensive jurisdiction, arguably in the world, for mineral development. Building and operating a mine there is probably 2.5 times more expensive than it is in the south. And the Mining Association says 70% of that cost differential is essentially because of the infrastructure gap. So if we can narrow that infrastructure gap, it can open up that opportunity in the north. To build mines and invest in opening new regions, as we said, costs a lot of money, requires a lot of capital, a lot of investors. We rely heavily as a company on debt from outside the country and equity capital to grow our business. A lot of you know our shareholder base is skewed outside of the country. 75% of our equity holders are from the US or Europe or Asia. 100% of our debt holders are non-Canadian. So this is a pretty good deal for Canada because we're bringing a lot of capital from outside Canada and are investing a big part of that in Canada, but more importantly, in Canada's north. We can say with our conversations with these investors, the global investors, they're certainly excited about the north, they're excited about the potential, they're primed to invest, but they're a bit anxious. They're anxious because they're getting a bunch of mixed signals from Canada on its commitment to resource development. So there's work we can do there. And we need global investors, as we said. We can't do it alone. The government can't do it alone. We need global investors to provide the funds to innovate and develop the infrastructure, as we said, that the North requires. And Canada's kind of been losing its competitive edge for mining investments for a number of years now. So we need to continue to make that compelling case that Canada is open for business, a good place for resource development, and highlight the potential that we see in the North. And what we really would like to see to unlock that investment potential is, as we said, we need a strong, integrated economic, not just economic, but social development policy for the North. It must have concrete solutions to build the roads now, to build the power infrastructure, and provide incentives for innovations that help reduce the use of fossil fuels. We know that's a burden. We know that's not only a cost, but it has an impact on the environment. So we're looking to get those investments, get those incentives so that we can work on innovations that help to decarbonize northern communities. Beyond energy infrastructure, transportation's one of the biggest challenges. As we said at the start, this is a massive area. Communities are spread apart. There are huge distances. But with better road coverage, with more airports, with better port facilities, labor will be more mobile, and communities will have better access to local resources, to their families and their friends. Nunavut also needs better technology to improve access, not only to health services, but also to education. Many long-distance education projects can't work, they can't be offered because it's very difficult to use web conferencing services. We just don't have the fiber optic capacity that we should have. We don't have the broadband width that we should have. There's no reason why the North should be any different than what we have in the South, so there's an obligation to improve that. So as we said, infrastructure not only is an economic, but it's social, and not only do we lack roads and energy, we lack housing, we lack food security, we need consistent education and training resources. But as our chairman likes to say many times, the best social program is a permanent job. And what we've been able to offer is not just hope, but well-paying permanent jobs. But there's way more opportunity than there is people to fill those roles. So the second piece of that strategy, in addition to infrastructure, is to unlock the power of training so that we can match the job opportunities with the available workers. That's critical. We have a long-term goal at Agnico. Our goal is to have, in each area that we operate, to have local people in those regions managing and running the business. We do that in Mexico. We do that in Finland. We have a goal to do that in Nunavut. We know it's possible. We know it can be done, but there's a lot more work that needs to be done on education and training. But we've tried to be proactive. We've worked and collaborated with local governments to create skill development, to create employment readiness, to create retention programs for our Inuit workforce. In 2019, we'll invest nearly $8 million to provide 25,000 hours of training for the workforce. I know it's small. At this point, we have 3 Inuit supervisors at our Inuit operations. It's embarrassingly low. I shouldn't say it's small. There's much more work to do, and we're committed to make that happen. And it's basically through education and training that we're going to be able to do that. So in less than 1 generation, Inuit are joining the wage economy in addition to the land economy. Across all of Nunavut, the lack of training is an obstacle not only for the local population to take advantage of management opportunities, but also for those technical jobs. But it's not just training. And the Arctic College does a good job at training. Just a regular high school education, unfortunately, in some instances, we have to upgrade to get into training programs. But our chairman and our board and our company is thinking bigger than that. And sometimes we get pushback. Why are you worried about a university in Nunavut? There's more urgent needs. No, we understand that. We agree that there's more urgent, there's more pressing needs in Nunavut. But as our chairman likes to say, we should dream big. Why shouldn't you, if you're a young Inuit boy or girl, why shouldn't you be able to attend university and get a university degree in your community, in your home? So Agnico Eagle, through our board and our chairman, has pledged $5 million for the establishment of a university in Iqaluit to ensure that the next generation has the opportunity to get a university degree in their home. Unfortunately, that offer has been out there for 8 years. That's sad. We're still waiting for concrete plans to move this forward. We're patient. We're not going to give up. There's a lot of things that we're focused on doing, and maybe that's why we've still been around for 60 years, and we're still in probably the strongest, we're in the strongest position we've ever been in a company, because we're very patient, and we're very stubborn, and it will happen. So not only are we looking for training, not only are we looking for infrastructure, but we need to deal with the energy question. We've said that this is a region that's totally reliant on diesel to generate all its power. To power the communities of Nunavut, there's 25 of them, requires 80 million liters of diesel fuel each year. Right now, there's no other energy alternatives in Nunavut, as we said. To power the mines requires significant quantities of diesel. It's not only the cost, it's the impact on the environment. So the third part of the strategy, which must be addressed if we want to take advantage of the opportunity, we've got to find cleaner and more affordable energy solutions in the north. And this is where we call on the government. We call on the new government to accelerate the decarbonization of Canada's north. It can be done. We've put proposals forward. As we get new cabinet selected tomorrow, we'll be at it the next day. We have a vision. We share that vision with the Kivalliq Inuit Association, that really the long-term solution for transforming to cleaner energy is a transmission line from Manitoba to Rankin Inlet. That would bring power to Kivalliq and the western side of Hudson's Bay. Not only are we interested in ensuring that we get a hydro line built, but also to provide the broadband width and the fiber optic capacity to the communities of the Kivalliq. But in the nearer term, because that could take 10 years, and that is not a cheap option, we're focused on reducing greenhouse gas emissions through a wind farm at our Meliadine mine. Wind farms can provide that low-cost, greener energy, and it can do it relatively quickly, in a matter of a few years. And this supports not only our vision for a cheaper and cleaner source of power, but also working with our Kivalliq partners and our Inuit partners to develop that renewable energy alternative. So we're focused on doing that, and we'll continue to work with not only the Kivalliq Inuit Association, but also the Anbaric Development Partners who are working on the power line concept to achieve not only the near-term energy goals, but the long-term energy goals, but we can't do it alone. So we urge the federal government to approve and fund these projects, not just approve and fund the wind farm proposal, but also to approve and fund a power line with the fiber optic capacity, as well as the power line to supply communities of the Kivalliq with hydropower from Manitoba. We have to acknowledge the federal government has an Arctic policy framework. It's a good start, but we kind of need some action now. We're encouraged. The party platform included a promise to establish $5 billion Clean Power Fund. We'll quote from that. It says, to support the electrification of Canadian industries, including our resource and manufacturing sectors, and make Canada home to the cleanest mills, mines, and factories in the world. We're prepared to begin working immediately with the Prime Minister and his new cabinet to get this done. I think we can all agree Canada's a great country. We're the envy of many. We've built this legacy in this country through responsible development of our natural and mineral resources. We can't walk away from that. You know, we know there are environmental concerns. We can do both things. Agnico has the knowledge, we have the skills, we have the talent to continue this rich heritage and to work with other mining companies and businesses and partners in the regions of Canada with these resources to develop them for the benefit of all Canadians. So we want to be partners. We want to be partners in innovation. We want to be partners that reduce emissions. And as we said, we know this is possible. While I believe that Canada's mining industry is the key to unlocking the potential, the industry must do a better job, and that's one of the reasons we're here. The industry must do a better job communicating the benefits of resource development to Canadians and to the country. We must highlight how and why mining works for all Canadians. So today, you see these signs here, and this is a bit unlike Agnico. We're kind of just quietly go about our business. We're not good at doing commercials, but we thought, given where the Canadian mining industry is, and given the potential and the opportunity that we see, we've decided to launch an awareness campaign called We Make Mining Work. And in part, it speaks to our culture and our values of respect, reliability, open minds, innovation, trust, sharing our opportunity. So we want to make the case today, and we'll continue to make the case, that not only can mining work for Nunavut, mining can work for all of Canada, but Nunavut has this tremendous opportunity, not to take advantage of the potential, but to be an example to the rest of the country, how Indigenous people can work together with resource development companies, can work together with all levels of government, and show that you can responsibly develop resources in this country. And you can do it for the benefit of all regions, the benefit of all people, and the benefit of all Canadians. As we've said, we believe we're one of the best partners to do that. We have the track record. We're the partner of choice, I think, in Nunavut with the Nunavummiut. And we want to help the people of Nunavut bring forward that potential and take advantage of that opportunity. But we're not here saying this is what you need to do. You've already made those choices, as we said at the start. You've determined for yourselves, you know, based on the choices you've made, that mineral resource development is your future. You've made that choice because you literally carved out the best ground with the best potential. And so when we're doing exploration, we look, oh, that's on their ground. So you've actually done a really effective job, which is good, because that's what drives the payments. That's what drives the financial return. That's what drives the partnership. So the Nunavut government has stated that that's what their objective is. So all we're really saying is we're here to work with you as your partners to help make that happen. So just in closing, it's really not about how much we have invested in Nunavut. It's really about what we see as the opportunity, and what we see as the enormous potential, not just in the people, but in the potential to build an economy that works for all of Nunavut, the people of Nunavut, and all of Canada. So we're determined to bring prosperity. We're determined to bring a better quality of life, and also to help build the social and economic infrastructure that's vital to the future of the North and for the people of the North. So really what we're asking, and we're hoping they're listening in Ottawa, and we know they're busy today, but we're really asking everyone to come to the table, really with open minds, with respect, and trust, more importantly trust, and I think that's what we've been able to do together with our partners in Nunavut, is to build that trust so that we can provide shared opportunity for not only the people of Nunavut, but for Canada's North. So Mutna, and thank you very much for your time.
You can stay here.
Yes.
You can stay here for a second. He's just sprinting off the stage, and I have some questions to ask. All right. So glad that you addressed the climate change issue. It is an enormous topic. We know that the North is warming faster than the South for mathematical reasons, at least in part. You make a compelling case for decarbonization. It is not a message we hear universally from CEOs in the resource sector.
Yes.
Why is that? What can you do to change that, to help bridge the divide between those who view that as a calamity and those who don't?
Yeah. We have this unique position, given where we've chosen to build our resource business in Canada, where we actually have the opportunity to move away from a reliance on diesel to something that's renewable, cleaner, and cheaper. So we have that opportunity. And the extension to that is we have the opportunity where we're in a region where the people that own the land are in the resource development business. So we have that opportunity to make that happen. And that's why we say not every situation is the same, but we think that this is a great example that we can then show and demonstrate to the rest of the country that not only can we build a bigger resource business in Canada's North, we can do it in a way where we're actually reducing the greenhouse gas emissions that are created based on the current template, which is all diesel. And so we've put proposals to the federal government to partner with us. We haven't had a lot of success, unfortunately, but that's why we referenced here. We're ready to get to work this week to work with them on doing that. And we've decided already at Agnico Eagle that we're going to build wind turbines ourselves, even if we don't get the engagement of the federal government. We'd love them to be involved because then we can get a much bigger grid. We'll start small. The one important thing about mining in the North is you have to be careful. We don't control the commodity price. So you need to think long term, and you can't really keep piling on financial burdens on these businesses if you want longevity.
And what about in your relationships with CEOs of your peers at other resource companies? So the government is one thing, you talked about that. Yeah. What about folks who have the same position that you do, they just work in different parts of the country and in different resources?
Well, I think you've got a whole different dynamic in Alberta. But the way that has gone has not gone well. And I think we can all agree it has not gone well. And you can't just walk away from an industry cold turkey that's created that much value. You have to move away from that in a way where you get a nice orderly transition over time. But I think what we can do is we can step back and we can say, well, wait a minute, because some of that opposition is Indigenous opposition. We can point to a situation in Nunavut where we are working with the Indigenous people of Nunavut to actually develop resources. So from that aspect, it can be done. I know it's a different situation there, but if you actually start from a position of trust, and that would certainly, that relationship, has to be repaired, but it actually can be done. And so we're not sort of sitting here saying, because we're not an oil and gas company. We know they have other issues. We know what we do. We know what we've done well for 6 decades. We know that we can create a case that you can actually have effective resource development. The conditions aren't the same, but there's a lot to learn from what we're doing currently in Nunavut and have done over the last 12 years and will be able to continue to do up there.
Canada has lost a lot of big mining names in the last 20 years. Inco, Falconbridge, Alcan. What needs to be done for Agnico to be a buyer and not a seller?
Well, we look at it, and that's one of the reasons, as we said, that we feel compelled to speak up now, because we have seen the hollowing out of probably what was the probably leading country in terms of skills and in terms of the size of the business and the influence that we had around the world in mining. So it's important that we continue to make that case for mining, that we tell the story to investors that this is a good place to invest. As a buyer, we've done several transactions since 2005. One of the things why we're still here after 60 years is we've never sort of run the business looking over our shoulder. Our view is the stronger our business is, the more control we have, not only with our future, but we have control over that vision and that mission statement we said at the beginning. It's not just about returning, making above average returns for our shareholders. That's almost a given. You need to do that, but we can create that company that people want to work for, and we can create those contributions to those communities and to the country. As long as we're doing that, we're going to be a buyer. That's the way we look at it.
Thank you very much, Sean.
Thanks.
Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Bruce.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you. And it is my pleasure to pass the baton to Karen Restool, Director of the Canadian Club, for the thank you to our guest. Karen.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm, as Bruce mentioned, a proud member of the board for the Canadian Club, but I'm also a proud member of Doki's First Nation. For those of you, we're a tiny little community, a 4-hour drive north of here. So this talk was particularly enlightening for me on a personal level, but also as a new member of the board for the Canadian Club. Thank you to Elder Tapate for providing those words and getting us started to this session in a good way. Shortly after your prayer at our table and around the room, folks were saying how they had chills in their body, a physical reaction to the words that you shared with us. So, miigwech, thank you for that. Sean, on behalf of the club, I want to thank you for your impassioned work on helping to build a stronger North and consequently a stronger Canada. We are impressed with how Agnico Eagle is investing in the potential found in Canada's North, particularly around your investments in the people of Nunavut themselves. This people-first strategy is, without a doubt, is what led to the success of Agnico as a whole, but I think to the collective success of the North as well. So thank you for that. As you so eloquently pointed out, as Canadians, we must conscientiously work to enhance our relationship with Indigenous peoples in order to achieve our greatest potentials as an industry, as a country, but also as a nation. We do have a role to play on the world stage. Providing sovereignty rights and resources are integral to building regional prosperity, which is directly related to national and international success. We admire the leadership that you're providing on the development and commitment on implementation to the Arctic strategy. We agree that it's time for concrete action, both on behalf of the government and industry, to back the many promises that have been made for generations, particularly around infrastructure, as you mentioned, social investments, and the decarbonization of the North. We all have a vested interest in seeing Canada's North thrive, and we appreciate you taking the time to raise our awareness and understanding of the critical issues that need to be addressed. So that said, we're deeply appreciative of the work that you and your team is doing at Agnico. Very appreciative of you joining us today, as well as members of your team, to share your story, and we wish you continued success in that regard. So that's it, but before we close, we would like to thank our sponsors, Davies. Thank you for helping us put together this event today. As well as a big thank you to mediaevents.ca, Canada's online event space, and VVC for live streaming today's event. And to everyone in the room, thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to join us, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you.